Okay. I'd just like to finish off one point from the mitzvah of Yiras HaMikdash, and that's the question is whether it's noyeg bisman hazeh or not. The issue, I mean, the Ram says before, he quotes the Sefer. Loshen Sefer at the end of the mitzvah. Ein li ela bisman shebeis hamikdash kayim. Bisman she'ein beis hamikdash kayim minayin. Talmud loima shabsoi say tishmor mikdashi tiro. Mashmir Shabbos le'olam. Af mor mikdash le'olam. So the question is, what's the issue? Is it Xeris HaKosuv? There's a svara to it. You know, how does all this work? Why is there more Mikdash even when the base of Mikdash is destroyed? So the Loshen of the Rambam Mishnah Torah that he says, Afal Pi, he says like this, he says, She'afal Pi shechorav b'kdushasa oimed, and therefore the mitzvah of Mor HaMikdash, the Ram is saying that the mitzvah depends on Kedusha HaMikdash, and therefore there's a mitzvah. And what it means is that the mitzvah depends upon the Shechina, and the Kedusha is an expression of the Shechina, because the Yiras HaMikdash is Yirah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as Ram says in the next few words. V'shom gam kein ein lo min HaMikdash ato yoreh el mi shepokat al HaMikdash. This is the Rambam in Hilchos Beis Bechira, Perek Vov, Halacha Tezayin. V'loma ani oimer b'mikdash v'Yushalayim kedusha rishona kitcha li'osel lovoy u'b'kedushas sharet Yisrael li'inyan shvius u'maisres u'kiyetz behen loy kitcha li'osel lovoy. Lefi shekedusha hamikdash v'Yushalayim mipnei hashchina, again shchina, u'shchina eina betela. V'hari oimer v'ashimois es mitashechem v'yomu chachomim afal pi sheshoimim b'kedushasan heino imdim. So that's the Ram writes, she'afal pi shechorav b'kedushasan oimed. And that is the mitzvah of Yiras HaMikdash, and l'chor because Kitchu Yishayna, Kitchu Lasa Lava, and the Kedusha and the Shechina are the same. And this l'chora is very much like the pirush of the Korban Aaron Tos Kohanim. Ein li ela bisman shebeis hamikdash kayim. The kivan she'ein Yiras HaMikdash el mi shepokedoi kivan shechora v'silek shchinos mimenu hoye loima shaloi nisha loi moira tamaloima v'chulei ki lezeh gam kein hukshu. So I don't know. The Ram would say, Alpha Pi Shechor v'silek shchinosoi, but the shchina is still there, or the reminiscence. I'm not sure. You know, this part l'chor is not like the Rambam. But the question only is in the Rambam, once you have Xeris HaKosuv, Shavuosim T'Shechem, that Alpha Pi Shechor b'Kedushasa made, what do you need the drush of Tos Kohanim of a hekesh between Moira and Shabbos? And the Ram quotes this hekesh, and he says, "V'hari hu oimer v'ashimoy sekin b'sheichem." And excuse me, in the Mishnah Torah, he quotes, and he says, "Afal pi in Perek Zayin Halacha Zayin, afal pi she'hamikdash hayoim chorev b'avoneseinu chayiv odem meiro k'mo shehoya noyeg boy b'binyonoi lo yikones elo l'mokum shemutar likones shom v'lo yeshe bazov v'lo yokol loishoy kineged shar HaMizrach shenemo eshabsois tishmoru u'mikdoshe tirou mashmir Shabbos lo'olam af mer mikdash lo'olam." So what does he need that for? He already said that in the period before, because of the Gzeres HaKosa, Shimoy says Mikdashechem. So this we don't understand. The Ravid, however, says the Gzeres HaKosa. The Ravid is Pirush Sefer clearly says the Gzeres HaKosa, because the mitzvah, just the opposite, the mitzvah doesn't depend upon the Kedusha Mikdash, and the Ravid the Shita say that the Ravid learns Kedusha Mikdash is Betela, Bechurban. As he says in his Asogas, the Rambam, in Hilchos Beis Bechira Perek Vav Halacha Yudal. So that we understand. But the Rambam, to quote both Gzeres HaKosa, to say that it depends on Kedusha, that's a little bit odd. Okay. Now, next point, next mitzvah. VaMitzvah hashtayim v'eschrim, hi shetzivonu lishmor hamikdash. Uleches v'tomid, kol lailo, legadloi, ulechabdoi, uleroimemoi. Om yisale, atu bintle itcho, lifnei oil moed. Now here, the Ram quotes the source of this mitzvah from the Posik in the Parsha in Korach. Vayoyim havaya la'aron atu b'necho ubeis ovicho ubeis ovicho itcho tisro es avoin hamikdosh v'atu b'necho itoch tisro es avon kunaschem v'gam es ochicho mate levi shevet ovicho hakri v'itoch v'ilovu olecho v'shosucho v'atu b'necho itoch. Then it says v'atu ubonecho itoch lifnei oil edus. And this is the posik atu bonecho itoch lifnei oil edus. And this posik is talking about Aaron Lubonov. And the truth is, it's very odd because the posik doesn't say that he's supposed to do shmira, but he's supposed to be there. So there's no verb at all. But the assumption is that, so why is he going there? Why does he have to be there? So it must be to stay in there. It's with shmira. That, I think, is the way it works. It's a little odd But that's what it is. The problem over here is, and that's what Ram says, Kloima, Shehem Yiyu Lifonov Tomid. So he doesn't say, he says, Shehem Yiyu Lifonov Tomid. What does it mean, Lifonov Tomid? So it means, why should they be there? So it must be Shmira. It's a very odd thing. The Shmira itself is an assumption which we have no clue that's the point. But why should he be standing there? I guess it must be for Shmira. That's the working assumption. Okay. Now, once you see, the Ram says, see, this by itself would be okay, but the Ram says, he says like this. You see, if you just say Tzivol Lishmor HaMikdash, whatever lechus shtomil will see Tomid, so I would say Nicha. That why is he staying there? Must be Shmira. But he goes further and he says something very strange. He says, Legadloi, Ulechabdoi, Uleimoy. We don't know where this comes from. And not only we don't understand where this comes from, the parsha that the Ram is quoting for the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash is very confusing in that if you read the psukim in context, Pshuto Shel Mikra is that the purpose of the Kohanim standing there is to make sure that a Zar doesn't come in. And do avoid what he's supposed to come in for, we'll see. And look at the psukim. V'shomu mishmartecho, u'mishmeres kol ha'ohel, achar klei ha'kodesh v'al mizbeach lo yikrovu, v'lo yamusu, gam heim so sorry. So let me just continue. It says like this. Let's get a few psukim. The Makor that the Ram quotes the mitzvah Shmira in the next two times, he quotes Kwa Nichpal Tzivu Izeh B'Loshen Acher V'Amrei B'Shomis B'Shmeres Oil Moyed B'Loshen Sifri Ata B'Nech Itoch V'Chulei V'Vnei Oil Moyed V'Vnei Oil Eidus V'Shmat is Mikdash B'Shmeres HaKodesh. See here, there are two psukim. There's Posik Beis and Posik Daled. I'll see. Vayom Hashem el Aaron, Ata v'necha itoch, v'chulei, Posik Beis, Begam, which we read already, Ata v'necha itoch, l'fnei olo edus, and then Posik Gimel, he doesn't quote, V'shoma mishmartecho, mishmeres kol oil, Achel klei HaKodesh, v'yal mizbeach lo yikovu, v'lo yamusu, gam heim gam atem, v'nilvu alecho, v'shomu es mishmeres oil moyed, u'cha avodas Yisrael, v'zo lo yikov aleichem. So there's a problem of Zar. Ushmaltem is the Shmeres HaKodesh, as the Shmeres HaMizbech, v'lo yeh oid ketzav al b'nei Yisrael, l'chor because of Zarus. So the whole parsha is talking about Zarus. And that l'chira is not the a shmira of l'roimamoy, u'legadloi. Now, Rashim Bidbo, in Perek Yud Ches Pasuk Aleph, Tisu es avoin hamikdash, alechem ani matil oynesh hazorim, sheyechtru beiskei hadvorim hamukdashim, hamisuim lochem. You're supposed to take care of the mikdash, not the zarim. Hu ha'oyel, v'ha'oron, v'ha'shulchan, u'klei HaKodesh. Atem teshvu v'tazhiru al kol zar habo liga. You shouldn't keep the zar away from it. And the B'chor Sholem is like that. The B'chor Sholem Talmud Vavinu Tam is on Derech Hapshat, also there. So the whole parsha seems to be talking about zarus, shmir from zarus, not l'roimemoy or l'gadloi. Beyond that, l'chera, the parsha and the shmira, mitzvah of shmira mizarus is a rasha. It says like this. And a rasha, first of all, in Shur Shlishi is not minyan mitzvahs. It says in Mitzvah Mishkan Yoridu, in Perek Pasuk Nun Aleph, Mitzvah Ha'oroi Yoridu Es HaLevim, Yoridu Oisoi HaLevim, Ubechanois HaMishkan Yokimu Ois HaLevim, Vazor Kov Yumos, V'chulei, Pasuk Nun Gimel, VaLevim Yachnu. Start with La Mishkan or Edus. V'lo yeketzav al das b'nei Yisrael v'shomu alavim es mishmeres Mishkan Edus. It's in Bamidbar Aleph, Nun Aleph, and Nun Gimel. So l'cheira, the psukim are clearly it's a shmir from Zarus, and it's a rasha. It's exactly opposite of what's going on over here. The Ram seems to say it's a mitzvah d'os, so it would have been a minyan, and it's l'roim l'gadloi, not from Zarus. Similarly, in Mishnah Torah, the Ram says, he quotes the pasuk v'choinu lifnei hamishkan keidmo lifnei ol moed mizracha Moshe Aaron u'banav shoyim mishmeres hamikdash u'mishmeres b'nei Yisrael. It's about Bibul Gimel pasuk lamed ches. And the Ram based b'chira per ches halacha beis v'ayomer v'shomres mishmeres oil moed v'nema v'choinim keidmo lifnei oil moed mizracha Moshe Aaron u'banav shoyim mishmeres HaKodesh. And if you look at the psukim, the pasha, the pasuk, is also for shmir from Zarus. As a Sefer pasuk, this pasuk, where the mitzvah shmira, it says Azar Kov Yumos. And also, lepash lefi the pasuk, it's a rasha of Seder Machnos. Biskurav Chumash seems to say that even though the pasuk is Be'or Shah, you can learn out the mitzvah Levim L'Deres and also the Ramban in Bamidbar Aleph Nun Gimel. But okay, what I want to suggest is the following. So what we have over here is the Rambam here. It's an amazing thing. The Rambam is quoting in Sefer HaMitzvos a mitzvah which is antithetical to Shiur Shlishi, and besides being antithetical to Shiur Shlishi, that we don't crown mitzvah Hashah, the Rambam says the mitzvah is X, and the Torah says that it's Y, that it's a shmir from Zalus. So I want to suggest the following. It's a similar thing that we said in the mitzvah Chof, that sometimes the Pirush Makubal can be a Hirah Shah. The Pshuta Shal Mikra is a Hirah Shah. Hirah Shah. And the mitzvah Chof, the Hirah Shah was Bama. Here, the Hirah Shah was Shmir from Zalus. Say the Machnes. However, the Matiki Ashmur tell us that the mitzvah is not Shmir from Zalus, but Shmira Legadloi, Lechabdoi, L'Reimoi, L'Deires. And since the Matiki Ashmur say that, therefore it's a mitzvah minyan mitzvahs. The same way mitzvah Chof. Matiki Ashmur said the mitzvah Mizbeach Adom Mataseli is the L'Deires, and it means the Mizbach of Mikdash should be Mechubar L'Karka. It's part of the mitzvah minyan Mikdash. Here also, this is a mitzvah of Shmira, the Mikdash, the Gadloi Rayumayim. And this, Legadloi, he quotes like this. This he quotes later. This is from the Sefer. This is the Sefer Zuta. Visham, in the Sefer Zuta, I'm going to read because there's no gay to us now. Nema Gedula Lemikdash Sheyesh Oleho Shemrin Voloi Doime Platrin Sheyesh a castle Sheyesh Olav Shemim Lepalterin Shein Olav Shemim. Let's look for the Legadloi Leromoi. And as he says, V'yadua ki palterin shema heichal v'yomru ki me'agdolas ha'heichal v'omamusai shu shemim b'sudarim olav. That's his niche, like Daima. That's when he learns the pshat, like Daima Palton. It's a different castle. It's a different cover, different gdula. That's how the Ram learns it. So this is the Matiki Ashmur have taken something, and because of that Kilu Pirush, not Kilu, it's a Pirush Makum Moshe Rabbeinu. They've taken what a priori Pshuta Shomikra is a Rosh and nothing to do with minyan mitzvahs, and do mitzvah minyan mitzvahs, like what he did in mitzvah Chof, where the mitzvah was a Rosh on on Bomo, and it became the Pirush Makubo Mitzvah Deus. Now, let's deal with one more point here. Oh, let's just I think we'll finish this up. There's another, there are other sources. I just quoted one at the moment from the Matiki Ashmur that the mitzvah is l'roimemoy or l'gadloi, l'chabdoi l'roimemoy. We quoted the Sefer Zuta. Now, the Ram says here, says mitzvah chof 2:20, he shetzivonu lishmor hamikdsh lech svivo itomid kol laila legadlo yiroimoy. So the question is, what does it mean laila? It means the mitzvah is b'laila and not in day. If the shmira is for the purpose of watching from something, so there's a difference between the day and the night, because why? There's going to be a surprise attack. There's no difference. So the fact that it's at night and only at night also means that it's l'gad l'roimemoy. And that's the Ram says, kol alayla l'gadloi l'chabdoi l'roimemoy. And the gadloi l'chabdoi is right after kol alayla, because the kol alayla is an expression of it. And l'chayr shmir mizachos in chefsa is bayim. That's when they're coming in. Maybe they'll do the avodah, maybe they'll do something. But at night, where there's nothing doing in the mikdash, that's not what you want. Kilu that you're watching. Then maybe the zal, if it's a shmir from the zal sheikam aleichem, it should have been bayim. And here it's balayla. And the answer is because l'gad l'roimemoy. There also, if you look at the Biagra in Tamid, and you see the Goyim learns in the Gemara and Tamid that the Gemara asks the kasha, since the doors are closed, what do you need shmir for at all? And the Gemara answers, "Mishani v'achronin chulei Moshe v'chulei kol HaMitzvos aleim lishmo dimlavkeim loma li kulei hai." If there wouldn't be mitzvah shmira and the doors are closed, so what are you supposed to be there for? What do you need more than one person? We need Moshe Aaron and What do you need so many people? El Koch, the Goin says, HaMitzvah ala Kohanim v'alevim. Okay? So all this is the Roimemoy Gadloi. Okay. Now, do a little bit more in the mitzvah, and then we'll go on to the next one, Bli Neder. It says, yeah, Kloima Lishmor v'lecha svivoy. So, not for now, this is a special request. We discussed this last time. The Ram uses when he says alecha svivo, he uses a verb, a Arabic verb, which I saw from the way the Ram interprets it both in various places, the Pirush Mishnayis, means actually walking around, okay? And it's not referring to the mamuna on the shomim who walks around, but l'chei, according to Ram, you see, it refers to the shomim themselves. And this is very odd, because the real question here is, what exactly? Here, let's go. Let's do it once we're doing it here already. Okay, this type, the Ram uses it also in ňlבקרו, in Perek Gimel, Perek Memhei, the Omnam Heyois Hashmira V'Hasivuv, which is this type, Saviv L'Mikdash Tamid. But this is all very odd, because when the Sifri says V'Nilvu Alecha, Ze Sha'omu Sha'kohanim Bifnim V'Alavim B'chutz, and in Talmud it says, in Chavav Menal, Miu, Masnisin, Toni, Bishloishim Makoimes HaKohanim Shoimim, Bebeis HaMikdash, V'Alavim B'Esrim V'Echad Mokoim. So the Chayri is, they're Kvuim B'Makoimim. It's not that they're going around. And in the Chayri we also know that mitzvahs are the source of the mitzvahs on Torah Shebiksav, and they explain with Torah Shebapeh. And there's nothing l'chayra in the Torah Shebiksav which alludes to the fact that they have to be moving around. So the Rambam, I think, Miroiv Hechach, that what the Rambam is doing, because he doesn't call, you see, the problem is, if you want to say, Matiki Ashmu, you want to say this, you have to quote a source, so you have to have a source. The Rambam doesn't call anything over here. So the Chera, and the Rambam does it again and again, both here and in ňlבקרו v'Hasivuv. So l'chera, the Rambam learned that this is part of the definition of shmira. Shmira means to go around, look, check, but standing still, like, excuse the expression, like a klutz, like a piece of wood, and not doing anything, that's not shmira. Shmira is not a, like a doll standing around and watching. Not watching, just standing, but it means to be moving and checking. And if you're not moving and checking around, you're not being a shomer. That's what he's doing. So even though they were in their place, they walked around their place, constantly checking to make sure the whole area was okay. And this is Vishomu es Mishmeres Oil Moed, that by doing around that everyone's circling and looking all over, they are watching the Oil Moed. And the Rambam in Protei HaMitzvos, in Hilchos Beis Bechira, says Lishmo Soviv, and that means probably Stovev, to go around and to watch it. The problem is, this sounds all very nice, but in other words, that the only reflection of this in Mishnah Torah should be in the Protei HaMitzvos and in the halachos Beis Bechira. There's no expression of this at all. This is very odd, and the Ram doesn't say it. In Perek Ches of Hilchos Beis Bechira, where he discusses the mitzvah of Shmiras HaMikdash, and that is very odd, to say the least. And as I mentioned before, this idea, even though we find there's there's the mevakrim, the people who are in charge of the shomim to make sure they're doing their job properly. It is true that they move around, but from the placement of the Rambam in Mishnah Torah, that he talks about the people in charge looking over the shomim, he doesn't discuss it in together with the mitzvah shmira, but only later on in Perek Ches Halacha Yud. And the din mamuna is like as a separate din of all the. It's not something peculiar here. It's all the mamunim have to watch and make sure the other people on them do their job. As the Ram. That's what you would assume. And the Ram Pirush Mishnayis in Shkolim Perek Hey Aloch Perek Hey Mishnah Aleph Ben Beri Al Pakia Al Ko B'Shoit Kmo Sheizboy Lecho Meseches Midos She'Kohanim VaLeviim Shoymim Soviv HaMikdash Soviv Soviv V'zu Mitzvah Afilu Ein Shom Pachad Umevakrim Kol Alayla Umi Shenimsa Yoshon Loike B'Shoit Ubegodov Nisrafim V'chule. Now, when he says the word Mevakrim there, he doesn't use the Arabic taif, and that's what you would expect it, because the Mevakrim are not the mitzvah, they're doing something else. And the Seir Taviv is the taif that he's walking around in his place or in the general area to make sure and do shmira. Okay, one more issue here in this mitzvah, and that's the Ram adds a line here. Here it is. Yeah. Over Mechilta, is the Sefer Zuta. Mechilta Omru. Ze Aloshen. V'shomu es mishmeres oil moyed. Ein li alabaseh. Minayin b'lo isaseh. Talmuloyma ushmaltem es mishmeres hakodesh. Hine his ames l'cho ki shmirosei mitzvah aseh. So there's a mitzvah. And just to throw the ball out, to start thinking about it. What do you mean his amish is a mitzvah? Because in the Talmud, the word shmira is interpreted as a lav. But here, the Sefer Zuta says, Mefush, there's a mitzvah say. So in Mela, we have a mitzvah say. Now let's look at this a little deeper. Now, the Pasha goes like this, that he's quoting this pasuk. Vayoyim Hashem El Aaron, v'ata b'nechi itoch tisla zavon kunaschem, v'gam at, gam esochicho, mate levi, shevet, ovicho, hakrev itcho, v'ilovu alecho, v'ishosucho, v'ata b'nechi itoch, itcho, l'fnei oil edus, v'shomu mishmartecho, mishmeres kol oil v'chulei, v'zah v'lo yikovu, v'yal mizbeach lo yikovu, v'lo yamusu v'chulei, gam ahem, gam atem, v'nilvu alecho, v'shomu mishmeres oil moyed, v'chol avoidus oil, v'zah lo yikov alechem, u'shmartem es mishmeres hamikdash, v'es mishmeres hamikdash, v'lo yiyeh oy ketzer b'nei Yisrael. Bamidbo Yudches from Aleph till Hey. Okay. So the Rambam not only is quoting a Sifri Zuta, that is an Aseh and Lois Aseh. We'll see exactly how this all plays out. He does this in Mir Mitzvah Kotzer. Aseh Chavbeis, Lishmor Bayis Zeh Tomid, Shenema V'yata B'necha Yitoch Lifnei Ol Moed, and the Lois Aseh Samach Zayin. To lahash b'shmiras soviv, shmiras soviv lemikdosh, shenema ushmartim es mishmeres hakodesh. So the lav is beloshin shmira, and it's based on the Gemara in Eruvin, on Tzadi Vavam and Aleph. Rabbi Loi, kol mokim shenema hishomer pen v'al eino lebeloi saseh. And the assumption is not only hishomer, but the lashon shmira itself. And in Sefer HaMitzvos in Shorish Ches, he points this out. So this is not a kefel of an aseh, it's a lois aseh. So the word shmira then, in that pasuk, means shmira from an avera. Not shmira to watch something, but more so to beware. But in Shmiras HaMikdash, l'chera, the interpretation of the word shmira is to watch, not to beware. Because you require the etzem shmira. The mitzvah is the shmira. So the Sefer is Mechadesh that there are two pirushim of the word Shmir in the Parsha. One times it means to watch, and another time it means to beware. So one would have said that he's shomer, to beware, and shmor, he shomer is to beware, and shmor is to watch. And unless the verb is in the nifal, to beware, but to watch something else, the poyel has to do with ashola. It's to watch. And in shmor, there's no mashmos of a mitzvah said b'chlal. It's only shomer. And l'chayla, you need shmira meh, beware from something. But if it's shmor es, it's not beware, but it's to watch. Shmor es instead of shmor hishoma me. But the chayra, this is impossible because the Rambam himself quotes alav ushmaltem es mishmeres. And you can't even read the pasuk of Pshutai to make it mean beware. Ushmaltem means to watch something. And it's a lashon poel, not nifal. It's to watch something. S. And Rashi and the Rashbo in Eruvin, they were maschal hishomer. They asked the question: how do you read the pasuk there in the different pasuk? Hishomer beneget tzaras. Because Hishomer bin neget tzaras doesn't mean what, it means to watch the neget tzaras, not to beware from something. And that's why Chazal interprets the question: how does it work? And beyond that, and even more interesting, how do you have in the same parsha the same word being interpreted two different words? Because according to this, it comes out that one of them is a mitzvah to watch, and the other mitzvah lo saseh, to beware. Even more than that, so l'chera, that's good what the Sifri Zuta comes to say, that there's one hishomer, one vishomaltim shmaltim in the parsha which interprets beware, and ainly elabloisase biase minayin amir shmaltim es mishmeres mikdosh gedula lemikdosh sheishel of shoimrim. And interesting is, you see the way the Rambam does it is pasuk gimel is the mitzvah say, and pasuk hey is the mitzvah loisa say. The way you have the Sefer Zuta, pasuk gimel is the loisa say, and mitzvah hey is the aseh. And the question is, how does the Rambam know this, and what is it? And why does the Rambam know that it should be the opposite is what we have in the Sefer, maybe at the Gisa? But what does it all mean? So the Rambam, I think, is machadish something new. You have to check if this is an isolated phenomenon or there are other places. What is the loisase over here? According to the Rambam, the loisase is to violate the EQ, not to violate, the EQ of mitzvah shmira. That's a lav. There's a mitzvah and there's a lav not on one who does not fulfill the mitzvah shmira. So logically, you can only imagine the lav only if there's a mitzvah say. You can't have a lav you enjoin from not becoming the mitzvah shmira if the mitzvah shmira hasn't been said yet. So the Ram learns that there's a Kabbalah, that one of them is a lav and one is an Aseh from the Sefer Zuta, and the Ram says how should one interpret it is that the first one is the Aseh, and once you have an Aseh, you can have a lav, which is the Ikiyum of the mitzvah shmira. And that is a look in the Miyan of Mitzvah Kotzer, and the Mishnah Torah. The lav is shelo lahashbis shmiras hamikdash. Shelo lahashbis shmiras hamikdash. The ashora is ikiyum mitzvah, and that's what he says in Minyan Mitzvahs. Shelo lahashbis Minyan Mitzvah Kotzer. Shelo lahashbis shmiras saviv lemikdash nemu shmatim es shmiras hakodesh. And Minyan Mitzvah loisase samach zayin. She'isiu mehashbis shmiras hamikdash meleches sviva tomid kol halayla v'omer yis'aleh u'shmartem es mishmeres hakodesh. So again, there is a mitzvah say, and the lav is the bittul of the mitzvah say. And kvar bi'alnu. B'mitzvahs chav beis, mi-mitzvahs aseh, sheshmiras hamikdash leches sviva aseh. V'chein nevaya heino shebittul zeh hu mitzvahs aseh. What does it mean that the ashora is the bittul aseh? And the Rambam also in Periches of Hilchos Beis HaBechira, Halacha Aleph and Gimel, Shmiras HaMikdash mitzvahs aseh v'chulei v'im bitloi shmira. If he's mevatel this mitzvah, over b'leis aseh shem v'shomes mishmeres hakodesh. Well, the shmira ashora holamarto sheshmirasei mitzvahs aseh u'bitloi shmirasei mitzvahs lois aseh. So therefore, the first pasuk is the mitzvah aseh, and the second pasuk is the lois aseh. Okay, beseder. Now, let's go on. That was it. There is now. Just I want to tell you one or two things here, and then we'll just take a scroll. The mitzvah Chav Gimel is a mitzvah of So I'd ask you to get yourself ready for next week. Okay, I want to do this tonight, but it's not going to happen. Is to look over the lashon of the Rambam in here, and compare it to the Rambam in Mishnah Torah in Perek Gimel of Hilchos Klei HaMikdash V'Oivnim Bo, and see what the mitzvah is. Is the Shmira included in this mitzvah? Is it not? And why it's so and why it's not? And Mitzvah Shem, we'll pick all this up next week. There's no reason to start the mitzvah now.